Hello and welcome back to the Socially Numb Podcast. I am your host, Richie Leahy. This week, gonna get a little bit out of tech realm and go with something a little bit, I don't want to say popular culture, but something that's been in the news a bit lately. But first, we'll continue by talking a little bit about my projects that I've been bringing on this show. This week, it's kind of a story. Actually, I have photos of a bumper replacement that I had to do on my truck. And it includes tires. I guess I called this batch of photos like bumper and tire replacement. But I had family that worked at the Ford plant. And they give families a discount there on new vehicles. And actually going to see the bare bones and comparing the price sheet, buying new was better than buying used. They were about the same exact price, which is crazy to me. And I wonder how many people pay sticker price. Even sticker price, was about the same as used for some of the models that they had. It's just buying a vehicle, it sucks. It's awful. But I had this plan for a Ford. They worked at the Ford plant. So I knew what I was going to get. I knew the cost. I went to check out used just in case because I thought maybe they'd be able to give me a deal, knowing that I forget what it is, but the dealer, they usually take a loss on this, or they don't actually take a loss. I think it's set up. The whole system is rigged. You're going to get ripped off when you buy a car anyway. So I went down. They would match the price on a used, but I wouldn't get what I was getting. I was basically just getting a used vehicle for the same price, which didn't make sense to me. They had some of the more features like, I don't even know, GPS navigation and stuff that I built in that I wouldn't even use. So to me, I wasn't going to pay for it. I went ahead, got a brand new truck. Now, of course, this was one that I picked out, and I got to pick from a couple different ones. So I get the truck, and with this plan, I'm actually able to pay it off relatively quick. And when I did that, I had basically the stock bumpers on, which are these chrome, cheap-looking things, and I had chrome, cheap-looking tires on. Well, my plan was to just go ahead, because I got it on discount. I could have got a used one that had all of this in, but again, it was going to cost about the same for like a bigger tires and everything, without having 50 to 100,000 miles on it. And to me, it just wasn't worth it. So I go ahead and I pay off the truck, and I go and I decide I'm just going to go ahead. I'll get new tires, a little bit bigger than what came on at stock, because some of the winters, are rough in the Northeast. So I go ahead, get a little bit bigger tires, not too big, nothing crazy. I got black sidebars and I got black tires because I wanted to black out the truck. The truck's red, so I went for a whole black and red thing. Well, the bumpers are chrome, so I went to get them blacked out. So I took them to a shop that did that. They powder coated them, basically. So I take my things there, and my brother, he's a mechanic, he's going to go ahead and just put the tires on when he puts the bumpers back on at this powder coat place. Well, I come home. This is about, what was this? I can't remember what year this was. But I'm still driving the truck. It still works great. But anyway, I take the parts off. My tires, everything my brother has. He has my tires and he has the bumpers. He takes them down to the shop. My truck's sitting there and he's going to get them powder coated. Or the tires were already powder coated. I can't remember. But anyway, they were down there, and I think we just had them shipped to that place. So what happens? The place burns down. So there, I have a crazy feeling like, you gotta be kidding me, like the place burned down. Obviously they have insurance. This is more gonna be just a pain in the ass, whatever, like a waste of my time. So I talk to the insurance. The place doesn't have insurance. Now my tires, they weren't touched. Only the actual shop burnt down. I guess they had 2 separate buildings. So I get my tires, we put them on. Truck, I have photos of both of it. We get them ready to put on, but I can't drive it without the bumpers. I can't remember what order I actually did it in. We might have did them all in one day. We might have put the tires on and then waited to get the bumpers back. Well, I decided just to wait. I borrowed a car for my brother, and the bumpers are they're melted. The fire melts the bumpers down, unusable. Well, because that guy doesn't have insurance, basically my course of action would have been to sue him in small claims or whatever and get it. It's basically, he's at fault. He should have had insurance. It almost seemed like he burned it down on purpose. And I think it's not the first fire that he had, which is probably the reason why he didn't have insurance. And I'm not going to give the guy's name. I actually don't even know, because my brother set all this up. So I go in, my insurance contacts me and says, hey, you're a great customer. We're going to go ahead and cover this for you. No worries. We'll work out the details with him. No points. My rates don't go up, anything. My insurance handles it perfect for me. They call me in and they say, okay, you can pick a set of bumpers here and we'll pay for them. And so I figured no big deal. It's just going to take a while for them to come in. So I sit down and they have the chrome ones. And I think, if I get the chrome ones, then I'm going to have to pay to get them powder coated. So I just go ahead and I pick ones that are already black from the book, from the Ford book. I can't remember what it was, but the insurance, I had to pick for the insurance to cover it. I had to pick official bumpers, I think, or maybe these aren't even Ford bumpers. I don't know. Anyway, they had a book, and I just had to pick from him. So we're looking at the pictures, me and my brother. He's like, "Why don't you just get these black ones? We don't have to worry about powder coating anymore. And once they come in, then we'll just put them on the truck and you'll be good to go." That works for me, perfect. So we're looking through and they look good in the picture. The picture is pretty much a flat ground level picture. So you can't tell the dimensions of the bumpers. That's a little bit of foreshadowing. The bumpers arrive and we're putting them on with the tires. Or like I said, tires might have already been on, I don't know. But I have pictures, you can see what they look like. I put the bumper up and I'm thinking, I told my brother, I don't think this bumper fits on my truck. He's like, no, this is an official bumper. You're there, we picked it right out of the book. The insurance wasn't going to order it without whatever. So we're putting it on. The bumper is massive. The rear bumper, because obviously I lost both. So the rear bumper looks good. It looks badass. It's pretty powder coated. Well, that's not pretty powder coated. It's pretty black, pretty sweet. I know that these might rust out a little bit better than if I had gotten stainless steel or whatever. It's better than the cheap rusty chrome that I had on there to begin with. And the powder coating would have restored it, whatever. So I get it on there. Back looks great. The front one, it overhangs. So it is this big bumper that has I don't think it has a winch. I could be wrong. But it definitely has tow hooks. I think. So it comes with all the stuff that I didn't anticipate it coming with. My brother's like, wow, I didn't think it was that big. Of course, I get ridiculed. Guys are like, hey, small dick. Because you know what the saying is, you have to overcompensate, which wasn't my intention. I just didn't realize they were that big. So of course I have to deal with a bunch of shit from my friends. Like, hey, nice bumpers, you asshole. Way to show off. It's like, I can't win. I go through the traumatic experience of getting my bumpers burnt down, and I'm getting shit talked for it. And whatever. I like them. It makes me feel safe. They are steel, right onto the steel beam in my truck. These bumpers are. So if someone hits me on the highway, because most people don't pay attention when they're driving, so it's only a matter of time until someone hits me. Or even if something else happens, it's icy and I can't stop and I slide into like a wall, I really don't have to worry about my truck getting hurt. Now, there was a feature for my Ford, whatever year it is, 2010 I think. So you can tell I've had this truck for a decently long time now. Bumpers they've been lasting. Haven't wrecked it or anything. Knock on wood, I don't want to jinx myself. But apparently there's a feature where if the front caves in, if your truck caves in enough, the engine drops out to prevent the front of your truck from crushing your legs. That's that is what I saw in the DVD that I got with my truck. And they showed like a bunch of crash tests or whatever, which I don't know why that was included. But I do remember seeing that. That's the only thing I can remember from watching that thing. I thought, what the hell? They gave me a DVD with the truck. Is this like the manual? Although there was a manual in there. So it was kind of just like a visual overview. But yeah, that's what it was. It was like crash tests and like safety things. Like, hey, make sure you do this because you don't want your head getting ripped off. But I got that. Maybe that's not standard. I don't know. Maybe the guy just gave that to me to be a dick. But I don't know how that would work with these bumpers, because I'm pretty sure that the bumpers are either going to cave under or cave up over the top. I don't think I would be hurt. Like they're attached to the frame of my truck. So unless it's an accident that's like very severe, like I get crushed by a semi, I'm pretty confident that this is like a safe family vehicle now. I don't have a pure four door. So I think you can probably see it in the picture. I have like, what is it called? Super Crab, Super Crew. Who knows? The names don't make any sense, whatever they pick. But it's good enough. I don't have to worry about the kids climbing out of the back. I don't have to worry about child locks letting people out. Well, I guess I have to let people out. But I don't have to worry about someone jumping out. The only thing is the seatbelt's attached to the door, so you can't open your door with the seatbelt on. That's an annoying thing with the back door, the suicide doors or whatever they're called. Now, other than that, yeah. So the pictures are me just putting these bumpers on because I needed a picture to eventually tell this story. I didn't write it out on my site. Again, this is back from when my site was a gallery, when I first started doing web design before I went to graduate school for computer science. And I think it's a pretty cool story. It's unique, something that I'll never forget. Kind of a nuisance. I actually had to go on dates in this hoopty my brother had, which smelled. Okay, so I think he got it from a guy who smoked. So what he did was he burnt a bunch of grape candles in it. And then it smelled like awful, shitty grape candles. And I'm taking chicks out in this car. And they're like, "This is what you drive?" I'm like, "Yeah." Humble me. But apparently, they if they saw the big truck, they might have thought I had a small cock. So it might have worked out for me in the long run. So this episode might be a little bit more vulgar for some reason. I don't know why. That's unintentional. So sorry about that if you're a normal listener. And I haven't normally talked about anything like this, but it just brings back some bad memories of try to get a simple task done. I guess I could be just in a bad mood. It's raining out as I am trying to ride down into town, but it's just a crazy, a simple task, how it can just affect your whole day. And like I can still remember the feeling like, are you kidding me? I have to order new bumpers. So it might just be the content that's making me a little angry. But on to the next. Check those pictures out. Again, we're wrapping up with some of these. The site's coming along. I use Bootstrap for my styles on my site, and I had a custom version because they're in alpha forever. So the site, they finally released a beta, which if you don't know software, alpha means like it's full of bugs. So of course I fixed a bunch of them, stripped out a bunch of features that had bugs I didn't care about. They released a beta. Of course the site doesn't break because I had already had all it set up, and now I can use more features. But I'm looking at getting all this content in, getting the site looking a little bit better and nicer, and just getting some write-ups as I continue. I'm looking at doing, so I've talked about it before, doing some YouTube videos. I had some games that I've talked about on the show that I have screenshots from, that I might just do short little YouTube videos of my thoughts of the games. Just kind of like a recap to transition from doing audio only podcasts. So once the audio version's over, I'm going to do a bunch of little short videos. I started to do it for Dad Strength outside, where I just talk about like parenting items. I was adding it to my ranking list, and I tried to do something similar for this, but I didn't have one. But I have some pictures that I might just throw up some posts. Might just throw up some videos just to kind of edit and get used to a little bit more of the advanced video stuff. But it's going to be bringing back kind of like a best of some of the games I've beaten. Like, I know one that pissed me off was Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I have a screenshot from that in the folder that I've been ready to use on the site. I was going to embed it in the actual Socially Numb episode show notes, but I think I already have another screenshot of that. So this, I'm just going to do something a little bit different to see if I get some play on that and push some of this stuff out. Social media, I always say to follow me on Twitter. I just started to plug my own articles as I've been moving them over. I've been moving them over chronologically, which I guess doesn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things. But for RSS and for keeping consistency and kind of like an archive, I want to try to put them back out in order. So I've been launching those as I go through them. And again, as I launch these, there's going to be some updates to the site. You know that. This has been a great experiment. Hopefully it helps get my name out there. I got a lot of followers from this on Twitter. So if you're listening, make sure you follow me, Richie Leahy. My Instagram is actually richie.leahy. If you just do Richie Leahy back to back, it doesn't work. But I'm going to put all those follow links in it's already in my footer. I think I removed a bunch of them though. But I'm trying to make it more of like a living, breathing site, more of my personality. I can't stand the fact that the internet is kind of like erasing and changing history. I saw today that the Google search result removed the Republican Party listing from Abraham Lincoln's bio on their search page, which doesn't make any sense. Why are we rewriting history? It's kind of scary. It's like 1984. I know other people say it, where they rewrite history. That's basically what's happening, and it's scary to be living in this time. And I don't know if it's going to end or what's going to happen, but there has to be a tipping point. A lot of stuff going on. I don't want to talk about this weird political climate that we're in, but I do want to talk about something that's more current event-y, and that was the eclipse. So being in Raleigh, we had 93, I want to say, might have been more, might have been less, % coverage from the solar eclipse that happened, which I forgot to mention on last show. But the solar eclipse was definitely overhyped. I don't know how people, I know I saw people all over the world, or I guess not over the world, I guess probably all over the world. I don't know where it started and where it crossed, but I know it crossed across the United States. So it was like a big hot topic. Everyone's like, yeah, look at the eclipse, you need special glasses. I was just going to go ahead, throw a couple pair of glasses up. The actual eclipse glasses were a lot thicker than I thought they had to be. Regular sunglasses kind of worked. To be honest, if you doubled up, you can get a little bit down, and it depends. I have some pretty good sunglasses, so maybe it's because mine block the right rays, and it gives a little bit of different color. I think the ones I have, do they make everything blue? I forget, but they were pretty rage a couple years ago where they only block certain, like the harmful rays, and it makes it much easier to see. Now, you're not supposed to look at the sun. You're going to go blind. But those glasses looked a lot better. The eclipse glasses just made you see like a little orange sliver. Not that exciting. I honestly thought it was going to be a lot darker than what it was. Outside, that's what I was hoping for. And the eclipse, I didn't expect that your shadow would be messed up because the moon was blocking the sun, so every shadow kind of looked like a crescent moon. And they had that come up more often than not, where you could see a little bit of your shadow and everything, and that worked out to the extent of like a normal, so like an example, as this doesn't make sense, but say a tree leaf. There was a tree outside where I was watching this, that the leaf normally would have a leaf shadow. Well, all the leaves were shaped like crescent moons, or like a crescent, I guess, not a crescent moon, because that's the only light from the sun that was coming down. It was coming down in that shape. So I thought that was pretty cool. Hopefully I explained it well, that you know what I'm talking about. And again, the glasses, overhyped. People were selling them for like $30 before the event. I know someone that used welding glasses, worked fine. Again, if you had some high def, now if you're using like the knockoff cheap-ass glasses, you can't look at the sun. But welding glasses worked. There are some other ones that I've seen people use. No need to buy those heavy-duty, or not heavy-duty. I mean, they did have heavy-duty Eclipse sunglasses that you could buy and then you wear for what? Nothing else? I mean, if you're only taking a glimpse, there's not much to look at. Unless you wanted to sit there in a lounge chair and actually stare and watch the whole eclipse. To me, I'd rather just watch it on TV. I watched it first hit before I went outside myself. I just watched the NASA broadcast. And they showed a good bit of the eclipse, and it worked for me. And I've already seen it a lot, just in movies and science class. It seems like that's a topic that everyone talks about. I wonder what the waves would have been like surfing-wise, because normally whenever the moon's in high tide, I don't know if that would have an effect with the sun and the moon both in the same direction. Probably some type of gravitational pull. Might have got some killer surfing out there. The one thing that baffled me was people were driving hours to see totality, like the total eclipse. And I guess it would be cool because you could take your glasses off and look at it for a couple minutes. I think the most people, depending on where you were, you could see it for 2 hours and 40 minutes. But paying $300 for a hotel to see that, and yeah, I know it might not come back to the United States. I actually heard that it might happen again in 2024. I wonder if it's going to start happening, because it used to happen over Africa a lot. I remember kind of seeing an eclipse when I was a kid in school. We went outside to look at something. Maybe it was the reverse of the eclipse now, because that doesn't make sense. I think those happen at night. I don't know. I thought we saw something like this when I was a kid. Some people said that it hasn't happened since the 70s, so I might be wrong. I might be remembering something else. But I know we looked at something with the moon or the sun, and I just can't remember because it wasn't that big of a deal. And now this, it seemed like everyone got on the hype train, and then once it was over, I mean, it only lasted a couple seconds, and then that was it. Everyone's back to their normal day because nothing really happened from it. So that's what I wanted to bring in, talk about a little bit on the show, and bring just something else into the mix, because it's something that as I go on, look for another format, trying to do videos and stuff, I can go ahead now and have some new topics to talk about and just get into some different things. So I'm not going to be limited only by video games or tech. I want to get into a little bit of everything with just having that as my expertise. I've also looked into, I think I mentioned this last week, been doing some Periscope streams for Southbound Sports, and I've started to look into, so I did a little bit of short video format. We've been doing a live stream on Periscope. Some of the stuff goes straight to YouTube. I'm also looking at other video hosts because I can't take the YouTube censorship. Now they make you wait before you can be a partner, and I'm already a partner. I've been for a while since I've been putting these up, and that's fine for me. But I had that, I don't know if I talked about this. So I had a content ID match. I had a short clip from an event. I picked the music that was copyright free, royalty free. I think I did mention this before, but I'll just recap it. I looked for the song, just played it real quick to send it out. Of course, it's for Leahy Media, so I don't want ads on it. Someone claims it. It's some jackass singing over this classical music piece, and he tries to claim that he has the rights to it. Now, when I filed my content dispute with YouTube, I didn't include any facts. I just said, you matched this piece to this music, but this is an actual open source piece. He doesn't have the copyright claim to it. Well, they denied me as insufficient evidence or whatever the hell they marked it as. So I don't know if I can appeal again. So what I'll have to do is delete the video, re-upload it, find another music. And of course, their music selection sucks. I know Twitch has a music selection. YouTube only has like 200 songs in there, at least from what I've seen. Maybe if you search different keywords, but I just want all classical music should be in there. The composers are dead. And don't give me, I know what they're trying to do. They're playing to these big corporations. They're not listing the old versions of these classical music recordings. They're listing the new ones only because someone can make money off those. So they don't want you to find the old ones, when honestly they should be putting that together and letting you use those songs in your videos. As I move to more of a video format, do some more tech videos. I've dabbled in video game streaming, but you have to kind of put time into playing the video games and getting good at them. And I'm more of a, hey, I want to play this game sort of like a movie and just play through for hours of entertainment. Now, I don't want it to be too much like a movie. I recently beat Uncharted 4. Now, Uncharted 4 is a PlayStation exclusive. It is the end of a trilogy, which, well, okay, that doesn't make sense. Well, there was an original trilogy. There wasn't supposed to be any more. Well, of course, whenever you have a console that sells a good bit, they want in on the piece of the pie. Now, Uncharted 4 felt off to me. It felt like it didn't belong, not so much the story, but the controls. And I'll get into that. But for now, the game was vastly different from the other ones, at least from what I remember. There were too many cutscenes, too much, like I said, like a crappy B-roll movie. And what I mean by that is, when you go to see a blockbuster Hollywood movie, when they make that, they're using all of the best equipment, okay? So they have the newest cameras, the newest techniques, everything. So it looks modern. If you go see an independent horror film or even an independent film, they're going to go ahead and use cameras like that I would use. That's why a lot of movies or even like weddings look low budget or look like they're cheap. Now, I have gotten amazing results from a Panasonic GH4 using 4K, not even 4K, even downsampling to 1080p, which is high definition. And that is why I highly recommend that camera, because I've seen the results side by side, some of the bigger, not Hollywood style, but bigger B-roll cameras that an independent filmmaker would make, that's tough to lug around and has all these inputs. And the Panasonic stands up. The one thing that makes or breaks a movie is sound, though. And a lot of those Hollywood blockbusters, they overdub sound. And that's why sometimes you can kind of see, depending on how good the actor is, where their expressions or their vocals seem a little bit off. That's due to the fact that they overdubbed vocals for some of the action scenes. Because it's not like they're going to throw a lapel mic up and go hand to hand and do, like they're going to be doing hand-to-hand combat while wearing a lapel mic like they're in studio. But that doesn't happen. So Uncharted 4, they took that, and instead of having either of those feelings of watching like a cheaper movie or by watching like a Hollywood blockbuster or the newest, best movie that you've seen, and some of them, there's even another level where it's like family videos. Some of those have had success selling movies into theater too. If you think of the Blair Witch Project and some of the other ones, you can go ahead and make a decent movie using a home video. I want to say one movie that I liked that used cameras of like it wasn't the Panasonic GH4, I don't think, but cameras like that was a movie called Chronicle, which I want to say was released by MTV, but it was pretty much a do-it-yourself movie where they did some special effects like bending and picking things up and making them look like they're floating. And I don't know how much post went into that and how much computer-generated animation, but I really liked that movie. It was to the point, it was shorter, and it left a lot of questions hanging. They didn't waste hours on a backstory that didn't matter. So I pop in Uncharted 4. It seems like the first hour of the game is walking while the game talks to itself. I think. You start off as like a little boy, and it's supposed to tell this backstory of that he had a brother that he thought died, and that's why he wasn't in these other games, because I played through the first 3. Now, here we go. We have a game series, and of course, I beat it, and they got weird. Let's say that. It was kind of like Tomb Raider. Now, I've never played Tomb Raider, so I don't know exactly if the same kind of thing happens in that game. But it was mixed like Indiana Jones, where the first time you're fighting other treasure hunters. And then once you find the treasure, like you pick up some gold rare treasure that maybe releases zombies or something. So then the second half of the game is always more action-packed. And some of the things, like the story gets kind of weird or whatever. And that's why a lot of people write off movies based on video games, because you can get as weird as you want. And I don't want to say that video games is the only thing like that. The comic book world is very similar. So whenever they write movies and base them off comic books, they're picking one storyline and they are focusing on that. What is believable? Because in Old Man Logan, he comes across, I think it's in West Virginia or whatever, but he comes up to the Hulk, like the other Avenger, the big green guy. Some other people have been exposed to whatever he was exposed to, radiation or whatever. And these guys, I think they're in the mountains, Appalachia, whatever, some rude stereotype, but they are hillbilly Hulks. So he comes across and he's fighting these big hillbilly Hulks. And what that means is it's like a crazy story that no one would believe. And if they put it in Old Man Logan, the movie, or I guess it's just called Logan, but if they put it in that movie, everyone would be talking about how shitty and weird that movie is. So here you have video games, they only have one story, one shot at it. If no one buys the Hillbilly Hulk storyline, they just quit making it. They end it after like 10 comic books. Well, it's kind of like they're putting a barometer out there. They're seeing what people will listen to or read and what people will like. A lot of video games get weird and they bomb. Now, some of the old classics, they try to turn them into movies like Doom, where it's more, I don't want to say it's shock value, but it's more just like a lot of heavy metal type themes, heavy metal music. They have like the scary monsters, whatever, you're fighting through hell. Basically is what the premise is. And then if they try to turn that into a movie, it's not going to really work. Now, I know it's like Doom. It's not really hell. I think the newest one, they're like on Mars or something, and they find like this occult. I don't know. But anyway, that's sort of like where video games come from, and they can be as extreme as possible. That is one of the first shooting video games of all time. The other, Kaffel Wolfenstein, is where they have, what is it? Hitler wins the war? Or something similar. That it's like an alternate storyline, and it's World War II, so you have to kill Hitler. You have to kill Mecha Hitler. He's like this machine guy. And so, I mean, video games can be weird, but I don't expect the story to be all-encompassing. I'm pretty much just a jump-in guy, and I'll kind of talk about that. But Uncharted 4, you can't just jump in and play. If you're going multiplayer, yeah. I did play a good bit of multiplayer, and I enjoyed it. And I liked playing. And I played Survival, which ended up being, I think I set the game up and people jumped in with me, but it was too many rounds. I don't know if they're all like that, but it was 10 rounds, and it took us, and I had a team of three. 3 people were playing with me online. But, man, Uncharted 4 online, it took forever to kill the guys because the bad guys keep coming, even though it says, like, unlike other zombie games, once the round is over, that's it, you killed all the guys. Well, at the beginning, it will say, like, okay, you need to kill the heavy guys, which, of course, I haven't played online that much, so I don't know what the heavy guys are. But if you're not killing the right guys, you could be on one guy left while all these other guys come running at you. And if you kill them, it doesn't take your counter down. It doesn't end the level. So, of course, I don't know what I'm doing. I have a PlayStation camera plugged in, which I don't know if that's broadcasting, whatever, but I was watching football while I played. And, I don't know, it took forever. I had to leave around the 8th round because it was like a 4-hour game. Nah, that's probably an exaggeration. It was more like we probably played the first 8 rounds or 2 hours. But anyway, I was expecting it to be a quick, normally online, you play a match and it's over in like 20 minutes, not 2 hours. So I figured I'd get a couple rounds in. And Of course, I think your guy levels up and you get better weapons. So, of course, as a level 1 guy, whenever I jump right into play, because I didn't buy Uncharted full price because I knew. I had a feeling that the game's story was going to be weaker than the others, because that's how the other games got. They focus more and more on multiplayer, and for a game like that to have however many people online, to me it's not a good multiplayer experience until they let you play with one other person. And I mean, Resident Evil, I've talked about it, was it 5? Resident Evil 5 pulled it off, where I could find someone else, chat right with them, play alongside the story at any time, get help. Worked out perfectly. Uncharted 4, you always seem to have a partner with you, whoever the other character is. And I understand they don't want to develop this. It takes time to get 2 characters right, 2 storylines, 2 camera angles, who can explore what. But Resident Evil got it figured out. And that game was released years ago. I haven't played Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil's okay, but like I said, the camera angles are weird. It doesn't get me going. Like, I'm not excited when Resident Evil comes out. But Uncharted, I was excited. I liked running. I kind of liked the over-the-shoulder camera angle shooting. I know, like I said, it kind of goes back against... I don't like shooting over the right shoulder of the character. It feels weird to me. But in Uncharted, based on how you prop up, I can aim off the left side. So I was always crouching, turn to face the left, and then I would aim that way. Was it over my character's shoulder? Nah, not for the run and gun stuff, but a lot of time, because of course, you're fighting against these other treasure hunters, which have all kinds of equipment just laying around that you can use as shields. That's how I fought, so it didn't feel as weird to me. It's not as good as a first-person shooter, where the gun's just out there, and I can see what I have or whatever. I know some of the first-person shooters, some of them let you switch, so it looks like you're left-handed, but whatever. It's not as annoying in first-person mode as it is in third-person mode if it is over the shoulder, like the camera angle that I described that I hate. So that's where, if I'm looking at a game, I mean, some of them, Batman was uncomfortably awkward, which I haven't beaten yet, and by the time I get to that game, I probably will be switched onto YouTube. Now, what I might do is take some of these, like I'm talking about Uncharted now, make it more direct, and do a YouTube video just on my thoughts on the game. And if people don't watch, then I don't do them after a while. I haven't been buying a lot of new games anyway. Now, the thing with that, if I was going to stream, my main console has been pushing towards the Switch. But, like I've said in the past, then I have to wait for some good games to come out. I like shooters. They haven't had any shooters. Zelda's awesome, but I've been beating Zelda on the 3DS, so it's not like I've been pounding out the newest Zelda. And then here, the last big news is going to be Metroid Prime 4, which I doubt will have multiplayer, but you never know what the direction Nintendo's going, and some of the Zelda open world stuff. They seem to be open to experimentation. But it would be cool to get like a game like the newest Doom on there. And you know they're set up so that they can run at any pace. And I'm honestly surprised that more games aren't ported to Mac these days. A lot of people run Mac Boot Camp like I do. And I know a lot of older games have been ported to DOSBox. But I like my games on Steam because then they're all in one place. I can download them, install them, no big deal. I thought about getting some type of Steam box, which I've heard are kind of crappy because they run the Linux version and not Windows. So that kind of stinks, because if you want to play a Windows-only shooter game, you have to play on there. So that's kind of the direction I'm going. Streaming just old retro games and not so much the newest, latest, and greatest. Just because cost, if I was going to go ahead, I was a little late on the game for a YouTube channel that just streams games because back in the day, I had the latest and greatest. I just didn't do it or didn't stream or didn't play. And I could have, and if I did, I started a while ago, then I might be better. It's a little late to start now unless you're young or, like I said, you're buying the latest and greatest. So my other option is just to go retro. Because games like Uncharted 4, I don't know if I could sit there and record myself because it was boring as hell. So the story is boring because it takes you out of the game. It forces you to do the story. I mean, you can pick up little things and read about this. I'm guessing it's a fake pirate story. I mean, and maybe it could be based on truth. I don't know. But I'm assuming it's a fake pirate story that I don't care about. That they put these little eggs in. And the disconnect from video game stories really comes in this game because they have the heart-wrenching story that hooks you in. So they go for the hook at the beginning of the game, and if you haven't played the game, don't listen because I'm going to spoil some of the story or whatever. I mean, the game's been out for a while. You can get it relatively cheap, $20, probably around what I did. I waited for it to drop because, like I said, I didn't want to pay full price. I knew I wasn't going to play that much online because just getting older and having family, you just don't have that time. Well, I go ahead and I beat the first part of the story. The orphanage story, boring. You're like sneaking through, which you don't have to sneak through the rest of the game at all. So they're trying to teach you, okay, well, you should be sneaky in this game, but you don't have to use it. No, don't be sneaky. So that's a waste of time. I mean, Zelda kind of did that back in the day. There were some, but I viewed them more as like puzzles. So they had like a puzzle where you had an overview of a map and you had to sneak through. This game, not so much. They wanted you to hear the nun and whoever else at the orphanage talk about your character and his brother. But you sneak out, you get the brother, and then there's another flashback too where they're exploring a house. Has nothing to do with the story, just breaks it up. Waste of time. You're not playing as this kid in the game much longer. It's not like you're going to play him in multiplayer. So just do a cutscene. Do a quick cutscene of them getting arrested and separated again. But they finally get to modern times, which I guess it's not even modern times. It's more of a flashback to before he was a treasure hunter. And his brother, they're in prison. They try to escape. They're doing like a fake prison bust to try to get this one piece that's at the prison. So they sneak in, have trouble with the guards. There's one crazy guy which ends up being the bad guy in the game. He kills a guard, which causes them to go, and it looks like his brother gets shot and dies. Well, apparently he lives, and that crazy guy knew it, and they've been working together to find this treasure that the main character, Nate, kind of just lets go. He wanted to find out with his brother, so I guess he doesn't look for it, I don't know. Or he just hits a dead end. But his brother shows up out of nowhere, and that's where the story takes off then. And he's like, I found the piece, and Nate's like, I haven't had any breakthroughs, and his brother's like, I have. So he finds out that he's not dead, and the very first thing they do is they sneak away from Nate, the main character's wife, and they go. He lies to her that he's doing some job. Of course, she knows and finds out later and has to come in and save them. So they're always, well, see, that's where I guess, if you're playing multiplayer and you were playing a two-story game, the second guy would have to kind of switch characters because he always has a different character beside him. He's not with his brother the whole game. They separate. So, I mean, you can't play as his brother. The younger ones work. The prison works till he dies. Well, I guess you don't really play him after he dies anyway. But I don't know. I mean, they could have just a separate co-op to help expand the game. I just like those. Even if it's a couch co-op. Like, make it a couch co-op. I would like to see a system. I know right now the Switch is the best thing about plugging in and unplugging on the couch. But I would like to see a system that handles dual output. They're focusing on 4K and ultra high definition. If they had dual output, you could play two-player couch mode, side-by-side TVs like I have, and that would be awesome. So that's my dream. That's why if I switched to some type of computer I built, I could get... See, the thing about PC gaming, though, is if you switch to PC, you're going to be in an arms race for years. It's the reason it's kept me out of PC gaming, because the PlayStation, you buy it, couple $100, 5 years later, there's a new one, you upgrade, and you get all the new games. Now, if it's like an Xbox, where if I've been waiting to see if Xbox lets you play Steam on it, and you can play at crossover games, but they don't want you to do that. They want to keep you in their own ecosystem, which I don't trust them to switch over and start playing Xbox. I don't know, I just don't trust PlayStation and all the good mega party games, like the mega first party, or I guess they're not first party, but whatever. The best games that are made, like blockbuster games, AAA gaming, I guess is what it's called, as I fumble around here. But the best AAA games are made for the Xbox and the PlayStation. There are a couple which are exclusive, like God of War, the Uncharted series, which I didn't like as I'm going through this episode. But I just don't know. Like, I would rather play, if I was going to play some of the games that I do play, Dynasty Warriors is going to be coming out. It's probably going to be on PC and PlayStation. Not the Xbox, I don't think. They always make it for the PlayStation first, just because of the high sales in Japan and China, where it's from. Now, some of the other ones, like if it's going to be Zelda, it's going to be on a Nintendo console, which I already have. I've switched to the Switch, and I'm just waiting for more games to come out as I play 3DS games or whatever. Next, retro games. I don't need retro games. I would like Castle Wolfenstein to come on the Nintendo Switch. Whether it's the original one, I would actually like them to do, because there's like a Namco museum game that sells pretty good on the Switch. I would like them to do a retro pack of shooting games with like Doom, Wolfenstein, Hexen, Heretic, all of these old shooting games, Blood. Oh man, I would go crazy. I would love it if they were all available on the Switch to play at any time and walk around. And some of those, I know there's good mods online for playing online and playing in groups, which I might just get into. Maybe I'll just do that. I don't care so much about modern gaming. I'll just find a niche group and just go with that. But one of the other ones is like Tecmo Super Bowl. I love the football game. I hear there's a good community around Madden 07, I think, the last PC version, where people just hacked and opened it up over the past 10 years and made a modern version that's comparable to Madden these days, because all Madden and EA Sports puts their time into is fake modes like player cards and all kind of other stupid shit that has nothing to do with the game. It makes me mad for no reason, because they shouldn't be investing time in it. They should be investing time in making the simulation better. But they gave up on the simulation altogether, and they tried to make it a hip popular culture thing, and I don't see how the sales are any better than what they used to be. They have to have gotten worse. People want a football sim so bad that there are even ones that don't even have gameplay because it's too hard. They're just a football simulator where you can simulate and fake seasons through. So maybe it's something I'll bring into Southbound Sports in a while, but I've had some good ideas for that are taking some time to come to fruition. But last thing, back to Uncharted. I played the game. I think the story, like I said, was too bad. It was a bad story. It didn't really hook me in. Too much of a story. A waste of time. I think the end credits was like an hour of just sitting there waiting for the end credits to go. I didn't even see the trophy pop. I had to put subtitles on, and then I had to just put the sound up, which I normally don't do because I usually play when I'm watching football or something. And if a game turns into a blowout and it's only one game on a Thursday night, I can just sit there and tweet about some of the game while I play. And I don't know. It just didn't seem right to me. Didn't like it. Really soured me. I'm not surprised that the price dropped for the new Uncharted spinoff, because that's the last apparent Nathan Drake Uncharted. Then, okay, I could put that up as a game that I've played, but that's it. I don't know what else to do. I just didn't like it, and it soured me on kind of the PlayStation, and I've been high on it. I've teased about getting an Xbox, but until they open up and go with Steam, which I've heard Steam is going to get progressively worse and worse on Windows. So maybe we will get lucky and they will make ports or something happen where these Windows only version of games on Steam get ported to Linux, which there's really no excuse for anymore. And then the Steam box can take off and get a Linux version going. And I can go ahead and build my own version of that using Ubuntu, which I think is what Steam uses anyway. And have my own Linux box because I love Linux computing. It saved me through some tough college times when I couldn't afford a new computer. And I was able to build my own and get everything rocking. But that's what I'm looking at, and that's what I'm hoping for. I'll probably keep talking a little bit Uncharted through this episode, but I have some other things that I want to talk about here. All right, kicking back into the second half here of the show. The next thing I want to talk about, I know it was kind of like a rambling rant on Uncharted 4 and some video game direction stuff. But the second half, I want to talk about television packages. And with that, I think I have... So with television packages, what they have going for them is they have a complete control monopoly on all the offerings, and that is the television companies. And that includes the satellite guys like DirecTV or whatever, Dish Network. Now, the reason they have this monopoly is because for many years, they didn't have multiple options in your neighborhood. So one company would lay the cable. That company was the only one that you could pay for service through. So they could jack up the rates. Now, how did they do that? They went ahead and offered you free to cheap service, and then after a six months to a year, they would raise the rates, almost double, sometimes triple. I've seen it go really high for no reason, because they knew that some people would be complacent and some people would just keep paying these higher rates without shopping around. They would just be like, okay, well, if that's what it is, that's what I have to pay if I want to keep watching my shows. Now, a lot of people these days with the internet are just cutting cable completely. You don't have to watch some scripted show. I seen a comedian, I guess you can call him a comedian, I guess he's more of a writer, but he was kind of putting out that he had high quality scripted shows as a selling point. Who cares if they're scripted? People just want entertaining content. I mean, I have an outline of notes here for this show, but it's not scripted per se. I don't have word for word what I'm going to say. And some of those people, when you're looking at stuff like that, they are going to give you bad reads. So you can't put all your stock into, okay, well, he's a writer, he wrote good content. And I understand a lot of television shows are, but a lot of them are really bad. If you go ahead and watch anything else, go away from television for, I would say, 2 months, 2 or 3 months, and come back and watch some of the shows. Now, some of them you can jump right in on, and I think these are the long stays, like that you can see anytime, and I could throw out like Seinfeld or whatever. Of course, that's a classic show, considered one of the greatest of all times. Most of these other shows that are getting canceled or barely have a run, they're awful. Even some of the popular ones, I don't want to throw shows names out there, but they're bad. And if you get away from that for a while and you don't watch TV, you can go ahead and see that these are bad. Now, the next thing that a lot of people don't have is an over-the-air cable antenna. And a lot of people don't know that if you live near a big city, or even if you live in the middle of nowhere, you can get a nice big antenna that pulls in airwaves and delivers them to your house. Most people can get like an indoor antenna for whatever, 50 miles. So depending on how far away from the city you are, put it in your attic and boom, you have your own antenna and you can get regular cable channels. And a lot of them, there are 20 channels right there that you can watch. Now, is it going to be stuff that you're going to want to watch? Nah, probably not. But then you can supplement that with the Netflix subscription, $11. And with that, $10, $11, now you have access to old shows. And so a lot of people have Amazon Prime too, depending on what you like. So if you already have that, that's 2 options you have to watch shows and movies. Other than that, no, I mean, I don't know what a lot of people are doing paying for cable. Now, I noticed that a lot of offerings started to come up. You could get Sling TV over your internet for $20. Now it's basically up to $30 because PlayStation View exists, where if you have a PlayStation, you can view cable through your PlayStation provider. I hit a snag with that. For some reason, my internet, AT&T now, they route my internet through Dallas, which is a pain in the ass if like this hurricane's going on, because we've had bad service in my house. And the reason is because their data centers are so far away from Raleigh, North Carolina, that anything is bound to go wrong. And the reason I know that that's where I am, that's where my geolocation says that I am. And I asked them, and they accused my PlayStation of picking my location. But that's not true, because my computer does it. If I go to ESPN.com, it'll say, here are your local teams, and boom, what do I got? Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans, Houston Astros. So I have all the Dallas teams, and it says right on there, local teams for Dallas-Fort Worth area, which must be where the data center is for AT&T. They're routing all the fiber cable through there because I have fiber internet for now, and it's just showing that it's crazy. And there's no reason for it, no rhyme or reason. They could easily fix it by putting other locations out. I don't know. But if you're trusting that, if you trust your internet, you can go ahead and get cable television over there. Now, the reason I bring this up is because sports are starting. And if you know, I do a show on Periscope called Southbound Sports. Well, that show we've been doing, on Periscope. We did it on YouTube first, but YouTube doesn't have as much reach live as Periscope does, just in terms of viewers and comments and everything we get. Now, we go ahead and look at internet in the cable in the grand scheme of things. You're not going to have to worry about going in and finding shows that you like, because now they have a service that's kind of like on demand, like on Netflix. I don't have to sit through commercials. Even though companies that are offering these other solutions find a way to throw commercials in. And let me tell you, it is annoying watching streaming commercials because it's the same ones every break. I watch a football game over the weekend, and boom, the same commercial 30 times. I pretty much have it memorized, and it's annoying, and it's a turn off. I know that they say, well, if you're exposed to it, you're exposed to it. Advertising works. Look at all the history. Yeah, of course advertising works. That's why it's there. But from a point of watching it and not being annoyed, it sucks. You have to sit there and listen to the same thing over and over again. It's going to drive you crazy. It's like a concentration camp or something. But they need to work something out, because I've heard that they had like only 100,000 people watching the stream compared to 10 million people watching the game live on their cable, which to me is baffling. I wonder if they don't count. Well, no, I guess streaming on certain cables only count one way. But that's my other topic for the week. I don't understand how they can go ahead and make these decisions and everything, and how people can keep paying for the same garbage over and over again. If there's one show you want to watch, I understand, but if it's only one show, you can pay for it on, if you want just digital, you can pay for it on Vudu, which is expensive for a show. Wait for it to come on DVD, which is available if people still have DVD players. I've seen that they're trying to get, and I might have talked about this before on the show, but I've seen they're doing another arms race where they're trying to get ultra high definition discs out there for your 4K movie experience at home. Not a lot of people have 4K televisions, and not a lot of people are going to go and waste money on another player for another movie where what good movies are coming out. If we watch movies at my house, it's the same 5 movies over and over again, especially if you have kids. Like, you get one kid movie that they like. Other than that, for cartoons, we watch old stuff. Like, we watch Ninja Turtles and we watch Scooby-Doo. Then what else? Nothing new. Why would I want that in 4K? Those are drawn in like the 60s, and then for the Turtles, the 80s, 90s. So it's not like they're automatically going to be redone in 4K. And if they do, they're going to be offered, and hopefully my digital provider, Vudu or whatever, the ultraviolet service, will automatically upgrade them for me. And they don't have a lot of TV shows on there anyway. So it annoys me for Vudu because the ultraviolet is a lot of movie studios come together and they have a vault, like an online vault of all their movies. So whenever you buy a movie, you get access to that movie basically forever. And if they got rid of this, because they've been talking about the way of the future, if they tried to change it to like a subscription service, I would never pay for movies again. Like, they've lost so many customers because people just don't trust them. They do shady business practices, and I'm one of them. So right now I decided to go all in on this. Anytime a new movie comes out, it's generally cheaper because they package everything else together. So if you want to get the DVD when it first comes out, it's $25. When on Vudu, most of the time it's $15. Now, do I get the disc? No. Can I download it on my computer? Yeah. A lot of them you can. I think most of them you can. Now, can I play it on my tablet? Some of them are different. PlayStation 3 lets me download the movies. The PlayStation 4 doesn't, which is annoying and makes me not want to have a PlayStation 4. I don't know if the Xbox lets you download, but if the Xbox did, that would be a selling point for me to get one. If it did have the ultra high definition movies, whatever, yeah, I could go ahead and switch to an Xbox. And like I said, I've been kind of sold on those. If only they opened it up to Steam or another service that I could pay a game. Like, I wonder if you can get Destiny. Well, I know you can get it on there, but it would be nice if you could just pay for it and play it on a PC or your Xbox. They need to make that jump where it's both. Not that people can play old games on the Xbox, because what are you going to play? Halo? I think it's basically a multiplayer. If I wanted a story, I'd play Metroid Prime again, and that's coming back anyway, which I mentioned. But that's my big topic for the week. Cable, I don't understand how people are paying for it. And go out and get an antenna and watch it over the air. It's free. You can watch most of the big channels. If you're worried about the NFL has content purchased by CBS and ABC and whoever else, but you can watch most of them. The only cable stuff you miss is like the NFL Network and ESPN. But there are other ways to get ESPN through like a streaming service. That's the one that I talk about, where it kind of sucks because if they had a standalone app for $10-15, I think a lot of people would buy it. Now, these other conference networks, I don't know, like the Big Ten Network, they might be stock. I would see people siding with ESPN before they sided with Fox Sports. And I don't know how much that would hurt the school. But that's it for this week on just my other tech topic. I guess it's considered a tech topic. The last thing, I had another project that I wanted to bring in. I think so far I've talked about my flag frame and I talked about my bumpers experience. Well, this time I painted some guitars. Now, I met this guy back in college, and I'm a left-handed guitar player. So I met this guy, he was a left-handed guitar player, and he had a custom paint job on his guitar, so I got to talking about him. We went over, we basically jammed. I wanted to kind of hear, I'd heard him play, and I think he did some recordings and posted them online, so I messaged him. I said, I'll come over, want to jam? So I go over his house. He has a pretty sweet setup. He helps me, he's kind of become my guitar tech. I'm playing live for a band at that point, and he gives me a lot of tips on what equipment I need. I go out, I get it done, because I have a budget based on, I'm doing like entertainment stuff. For the college I'm at, kind of a club I started, we got some funding, and I was able to get pretty much the guitar gear of my dreams for a while. And he was like, I have a paint job guitar, do you want to swap? I forget what I had at that time. I had an electric guitar that was like it was an ESP guitar, which are said to be used by a lot of heavy metal guitarists, but to me they generally seem pretty cheap. So I'm sure that ESP, the ones that the professionals use, are much higher quality than the one I had. He was more interested in the pickups and the setup of it and the look, and he went ahead and had this Van Halen guitar, which was awesome. It was pretty much, he did his research, and it was pretty much all the parts from the similar guitar, but of course in left-handed, which a lot of them you would think they don't make anymore, because a lot of the companies that he used to build his guitar, I mean, they're from the 80s. I don't think they're around anymore. And for them to even have left-handed parts, he said he scoured eBay. So I've always felt bad about this, but he gives me the Van Halen guitar, perfect paint job. Well, if you're familiar with what Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstrat looks like, it's a little burnt up. So of course I torched it a bit, had it looking pretty cool, and it kind of ruined some of the sound and stuff. So I'm assuming that Eddie Van Halen did it more for whatever, I don't know, maybe it was just over time something happened, or it got looking like that just for show. But I ended up selling the guitar for scrap on eBay, parts at a time, and got pretty decent money for it. I ended up buying another guitar, an Explorer shaped guitar from a custom shop that sells left-handed guitars, and that one turned out pretty good, had a good sound. It's the one I still have now. I bought another one by them. It was more of a knockoff for Les Paul. It was heavy. I didn't like it. I went ahead and resold that one on eBay too. I also had a 5-string acoustic bass, which I kind of regretted because I wish I would have bought a better acoustic guitar at that time. But instead I got a bass, I had to sell that one. So I've had a bunch of guitars over time. But I went ahead and took a crack at trying to, before I sold the Eddie Van Halen guitar, I actually sanded it down and repainted it white, I think, or black. I don't know. I painted a base color before I sold it online, just with like a primer, just so that I could go ahead and sell it. So this is what you're getting. It actually had a block. I did a lot of work on that guitar just messing around. The block wouldn't stay in tune. I don't know. I mean, it had fret locks, but it didn't have the bottom bridge piece was kind of weird. It was one of those locking tremolos or whatever they're called. And I always had trouble keeping it in tune. So I actually blocked it. I put a piece of wood underneath and I kind of sanded down the guitar base with that. So selling it for parts was kind of weird. I mean, I should have took pictures and told them like, hey, you can go ahead and punch this block right out and resand it and repaint it. And you can have an open back. Of course, I didn't have a cover for it because the guitar when I got didn't have a cover. Well, of course, then the guy who painted the guitars gets back in touch with me, asks me if he wants to trade back. I don't have his guitar at the time because I had honestly thought that it was a straight up trade. And he painted the other one with tiger stripes, which would have been awesome, but he made them pink, like an 80s like hair metal band. If it would have been just regular tiger stripes, I really would have regretted gutting the guitar. But I was experimenting in that time, and there were parts, and I got a decent money back for them, so like it's not like I lost money. And now I'm looking at getting, oh actually no, I did paint. So I've had the Explorer, that is on there too. I think I have both pictures. So I painted the Strat first. It's like a Strat knockoff the Frankenstrat. I just went ahead and painted that in my first color. Next, I wanted a white Explorer. They only had black. So I ordered it, sanded it down. The neck was kind of thick. I sanded that down real thin. So it's real fast guitar playing now. And at this point I had experience painting, so I painted it white. And of course, over time, I've learned white paint doesn't go well with sweaty hands. So like the sweat like tinges the guitar color. So now it's like an off-white, like yellowish color kind of. Well, not really. I can send a picture of it. It looks white from back there, but like the back where my hands go is all kind of discolored because I painted that white too in the headstock. But over time, it looks cool. Some of the paint, like I've nicked it up, pushed some of it down. I've used like a automotive paint, so it's nice, heavy, gives me a nice thick appearance. And some of that's been scratched and rubbed raw by my hand. I didn't even know that was possible. You could rub paint off the guitar, which I guess makes sense. But I have pictures of that one too. These are older pictures. I've done this. This was, oh wow, at least 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Maybe even longer than that, I think it is. Maybe 8 years ago that I've painted these guitars. But that's my last project. I think I just realized it. I think next week's episode is the 52nd episode. So it flew past episode 50, I believe. I got to put these in order and count them up. But I think that I have reached the limit, and I'll be ending the show and moving into a YouTube space more or less after next week. So Follow me on Twitter to get updates. I need to do better on that. I've been doing a lot of sports stuff, as you could imagine. But I've been putting up some of my content, trying to get stuff in. I'm doing some cool stuff with my site for Southbound Sports, which I'll talk about probably next week, hopefully. If not, you'll have to go visit southboundsports.com and check it out. But thanks for listening. My name is Richie Alehi. Follow me, ask me any questions, and I will see you next week.